So I know as a Bears fan, I do plenty of bitching and griping about Bears football and talking about how that organization is a bastion of mediocrity, a dumpster fire, and all of that. I know that that is true. But they certainly do not hold a candle to the standards set the past decade or so by Duval football. There is no bigger waste of space, dumpster fire in the National Football League as an organization than the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are literally, truly the jag-offs of the NFL. You can argue other teams and you lose every single debate. Their leadership is atrocious. Ownership is stupid. I could go on and on and on. And I have to imagine a lot of Jags fans were waiting with bated breath because they wanted Byron Leftwich to be the next head coach of this team. And of course, that didn't happen. Of course, you see the reports that Shad Khan would tie his loyalties more to Trent Baalke than possibly getting a hot young mind as head coach. Of course, he would trust in Trent Baalke more than he does somebody that actually knows what the hell they're doing like Byron Leftwich. Of course, in job interviews, he would be asking somebody like a Byron Leftwich how they would feel about working with somebody like Trent Baalke while Trent Baalke is in the goddamn room. Like, this is peak dumpster fire 101 BS if there ever has been. And while it is unfortunate on the one hand that Byron Leftwich doesn't get, right, at least at this moment, his first well-deserved head coaching opportunity in the NFL, I give him a tremendous amount of credit for showing the professional maturity and sophistication to say, you know what, I want a head coaching job, but I don't just want any head coaching job. Even more importantly, I don't want or need this head coaching job. Because these head coaching jobs in the NFL come at a premium. There's only 32 of them. So in general, it's an ultra-competitive chase to get one of those 32 coveted head jobs. Then you look at it and you say, sometimes there is timing for when you get these opportunities, and you could miss your window if you wait too long. Then on top of that, you factor in that Byron Leftwich, while yes, a former first-round pick quarterback of the Jaguars organization in 2003, been a Super Bowl champion as a coordinator on the offensive side of the ball with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is also a minority head coaching candidate. And as we clearly see again in this offseason cycle so far, minority head coaching candidates and getting hired into head coaching jobs are not a mutual thing. So I totally get why Jags fans would be beside themselves, mad at Khan for backing a clown like Trent Baalke for no fucking reason, absolutely no justification. And Jags fans should absolutely go off about that because that is a clown show. That is stupid. They can also certainly be frustrated or mad about the fact that Byron Leftwich isn't their new head coach. And again, I get it. I understand it. Because I feel like he would have been a good fit for that situation. I feel like he could have done some good work with Trevor Lawrence. And as a result, that opportunity is gone now. It felt like a logical fit in a variety of different ways, and not just because Leftwich used to play quarterback there. So, yeah, like, that sucks. However, sometimes your best laid out plans don't come to fruition, and the alternative ends up working out pretty well. Speaking of my Bears, you know, some fans remember this, some don't. In that 2004 head coaching circuit, the Chicago Bears general manager Jerry Angelo, team president Bean Counting Ted Phillips, their number one target was Nick Saban. And of course they did what Bears football ultimately does. And they went after their guy, but they lowballed him because that's what the mediocrity of the McCaskey way is all about. He was not their top choice. The guy they ultimately hired, and that was Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith was choice two, and he damn near lost out to Russ Grimm. Oh yes, that's true. Those two guys were the other finalists for the job. And by year 3, Lovie Smith had the Bears in the Super Bowl. So sometimes you don't get your first choice, but your second choice can work out just fine. And if you're a Jaguars fan, you certainly hope that the second choice ultimately works out, because I at least got to say this. If you're trying to win a Super Bowl, in theory it would make sense to want to hire somebody that actually has won a Super Bowl as a head coach. And that is one piece of experience that Doug Pederson brought to the table that none of these other notable candidates in this coaching cycle did. Now, I'm not here to champion Doug Pederson and say he is the answer to all the problems for Jacksonville. As I've seen a few of my Twitter followers astutely point out, is that no head coach has ever won a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. Fair enough. But when you look at some of the other guys that are on the market, like for Jags fans, as much as you might have wanted Byron Leftwich, as much as you thought he was a good fit, as much as you felt he was ready, and I agree with all those sentiments. The reality is, while the process didn't go the way you maybe envisioned it should, hoped that it should, wanted it to, you ended up getting the more experienced and more accomplished, and dare I say more qualified candidate to be your next head coach in Doug Pederson. So get ready to have fucking ice cream every week. And you say, well, his tenure in Philly didn't end well. You had the tanking shit that last week of the season. And that came solely from the head coach and had nothing to do with general manager Howie Roseman? Really? Like, we could talk about any of these guys that were previously head coaches elsewhere, and you could focus on their flaws and point to their flaws. The reality is, as much as you want to talk about, well, once Frank Reich left, it went downhill. Well, there's the same fucking thing you can say about Dan Quinn. You can say that shit about a lot of other guys, too. But at least you can point to Doug Pederson. If you want to also take a look at the entire picture, which includes the positives, is that under his leadership, no matter how much you feel Doug Pederson had to do with it or not, Carson Wentz was absolutely playing at an MVP level in his second season in the league before the knee injury in 2017. The Philadelphia Eagles ended up winning the Super Bowl that year with goddamn Nick Foles, F-A-I-L-S, Nick Foles as their starting quarterback, who outplayed Tom Brady in that damn Super Bowl that year. That's got to count for something. In his 5 seasons in Philly, they went to the playoffs 3 times. They won a damn Super Bowl. That was something Andy Reid could never do in Philly. And Doug Pederson did that. So if you're trying to win a championship, it stands to reason, even though you talk about some of the historical precedents where are fair to call out, the fact is Doug Pederson's actually done it. Even Harbaugh can't say that. Caldwell, as much as I'm a fan of Caldwell, he can't say that he won a Super Bowl as a head coach. Doug Pederson could. So at least you can say you're bringing in an offensive-minded coach that has some experience working with young quarterbacks, and you have a guy that's had success at the highest level as a head coach. It doesn't have to be all bad. Am I sitting there saying that this is going to go swimmingly well? I doubt it. My vibe isn't the best about it. But Christ, at some point in time, you've got to make a decision on somebody, and you've got to hope you land in the right place. And this is an example of the Jaguars, Shad Khan, his son Tony Khan, the idiots that they are, the dumpster fire that they run of an organization, may have stumbled into not such a bad choice after all. You know, there were certainly plenty of people that were supportive of the Urban Meyer hire last year, some that questioned it, some that absolutely opposed it, and he didn't even make it through an entire season. It would hope to stand to reason that Doug Pederson's at least going to make it to year 2 of his coaching contract, and that's got to be seen as a positive. But this is a guy that has some previous track record, even if you want to just solely attribute it only exclusively to Frank Reich, that's your business. There's something to be said there about development happened under his watch of Carson Wentz that has not happened elsewhere. And if Frank Reich was so great for Carson Wentz, why did Carson Wentz go to Indy in 2021 and not play very well? You get what I'm saying? So Jags fans, your organization is absolutely the jag-offs of the league. There's no question about that. Being so stubbornly insistent about wanting to keep Trent Baalke around when he is clearly the problem and nobody wants to fucking work with the guy is representative of so many issues with this Jacksonville franchise. And while you might be disappointed that the guy you originally had your sights set on isn't going to be the dude, This doesn't have to totally be a bad news story. It may end up being, but for all you know, Leftwich might have been a disaster in 3 or 4 years in Jacksonville too. Because right now, you have, I think, absolutely nothing other than hope and wish and want to believe in that Trevor Lawrence can be a franchise quarterback in the National Football League. Did he really show you anything in 2021 that indicates he absolutely can be the dude? No, he didn't. So at least you got an offensive-minded guy that you trust can be around. He's had success. I'm not here to pound the table and defend the cons because so many things about this hiring process were a fucking joke. The Jags had a couple of weeks head start on everybody with the in-season firing of Urban Meyer, and it still took them until the beginning of February to hire fucking Doug Pederson. Who, again, clearly wasn't their first choice. And sometimes that works out, and sometimes that doesn't. But my God, for the Jags fans that think this is a total abortion of a hire, I would certainly like to hear why. Because looking at your track record of the other head coaches you've hired, Doug Pederson's as good as anyone that you've hired all the way back to the days of Tom Coughlin. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Jacksonville in 2022 under the leadership of Doug Pederson. Be very interesting to see how either Trent Baalke undermines him or sabotages him with the shitty drafting. It's very likely to happen. Why would you want to tie yourself to a general manager that is so bad? I'll never understand. I guess that's just Duval football.